Hello, everyone. Good day. Welcome to Nutrition Beyond the Mind podcast. I'm very excited to be your host today. I go by the name Richmond Nketia, and I'm very delighted to guide you through this important discussion. Today, we will be addressing a very sensitive topic that's eating disorders, with our main focus on anorexia nervosa. I encourage everyone to stay tuned, engage, and learn as we dive much deeper into this conversation. Today, I'm joined by some amazing students from the University of Cape Coast who will share their thoughts on Anorexia Nervosa. Please stay tuned, don't go anywhere, don't scroll. After this commercial break, we will continue the discussion. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for staying with us during this short commercial break. Now, this program is proudly funded by Nova Space, Gansa UCC. Now, I'll move straight to my guests so that they will introduce themselves to us. Now, starting from my left.
I'm Miss Aidilbat.
I'm Dr. Anastasia Hobana.
Miss Agnes Atanaza here.
Now, back to my right.
I am Mr. Lisa Unto Jackson.
And I'm Mr. Suleiman Kofi Mwakar.
Thank you very much, our amazing guests, for honoring our invitation this evening. Now, you are warmly welcome to our podcast show. So now, we've been hearing a lot about eating disorders, I and my viewers, and we want to know what eating disorders about. So now, Mr. Abubakari, please, can you throw more light about eating disorders for us?
Thank you, Mr. Host, for the opportunity. So, when we talk about eating disorders is simply means they are complex mental conditions that people develop unhealthy relationship with food. An example include anorexia nervosa, bulimia, and so on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abubakari. Please, our viewers watching us, please don't forget to leave your comments under the video so that as time goes on, I will be reading it. If you have any questions too, please, you can also add it. Now, back to you, Miss Anas. Please, what exactly is anorexia nervosa?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. So when you say anorexia nervosa, it is a mental eating disorder in a person in which the person deliberately starves him or herself from eating with the fear of gaining weight and sometimes with the perception that they are fat or too heavy. So they think starving themselves will help them reduce weight. So it is a mental disorder in our eating habits.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anna. Please, as you were explaining, what if someone also asks you that, how is it different from dieting?
Okay, so when you say dieting is basically a planned and conscious act or ability of what, how, and when to eat with a particular objective of either gaining weight, losing weight, or correcting a health condition. Someone also will be on dieting just to maintain the weight. So with anorexia nervosa, the person is deliberately starving with the idea of losing weight or not gaining weight. But with the dieting, you've planned and it's a conscious act you go by of what you are eating, how much and even when and how you are going to eat it so that you correct your health conditions or maintain your body stature with no a mental default or something. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anas. Please, Miss Teresa, what are the common signs and symptoms of anorexia nervosa?
Okay, so thank you very much for the question. And ideally, when we talk about anorexia nervosa, people tend to watch out for the physical aspects of them. So when you see the physical parts, some of the visible signs and symptoms are dizziness, fatigue, weight loss, and then a missing of menstrual periods. But there are more to it than just the physical aspects that we all see. We can have the psychological aspects as well. And some of the psychological signs and symptoms are obsessive calorie counting, social withdrawal, and then denial of the seriousness of the condition. That's what I can say about it.
Thank you very much for sharing it with us. I know that my viewers watching, and please, you guys are taking notes. Thank you. Please, Miss Agnes, what factors contribute to the development of anorexia nervosa?
Right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Alright, so what I want to say among those factors, a lot of factors contribute to the development of anorexia nervosa. And then I would say psychologically, people with low self-esteem have the perception that because they are not big or thin, they can't fit into a particular environment. So they practically don't want to eat just to reduce in weight. Yeah. And then biologically, people also inherit genetically inherit this particular anorexia nervosa from their parents or relatives. And then it also leads to anorexia nervosa. And then socially, all right, so in the community where people appreciate seeing people with the perception that they thin or lean people are beautiful compared to fat people. So looking at this, somebody with a very fat body shape will be like, let me not eat, reduce calorie and energy intake so that I can be able to fit into the environment. That's what I can tell.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. Please, back to you, Mix IE. How does anorexia affect major body system?
Okay, so anorexia nervosa affects almost all the systems of our body. The fuel the body uses is mainly obtained from the food it eats. So as one decides to starve because of a fear of a particular body type, the body does not get the adequate energy it needs to enable all its processes. So anorexia nervosa can affect our hormones, it can affect our brain, it can affect our electrolytes, and it can affect almost every other organ in our body. So if one starves for a very long period of time, it can even affect the fertility of the individual, being it a male or female. And then mostly in the females, it is realized with missing periods or irregular menstrual flow. And then when there is electrolyte imbalance, it can lead to death. And then we all know that our brain uses glucose for most of its activities. So the moment you are starving, you're actually causing harm to your entire body and then to your brain as a whole.
Thank you very much, Miss Ivy. Please, our viewers, do not starve yourself because of your body shape. Please and please again. Miss Abu, the perfect gentleman, among our guests here. Please, what role do culture and social media play?
Okay, thank you once again, Stoppers. So, I would say culture and social media contributes, they are the major factors that contribute anorexia nervosa nowadays. In such a way that when it comes to our social media platforms, people tend to upload videos and pictures looking nice in their shapes and cool, which the pictures are edited. They are not realistic. Seriously, yes. So an individual that is at school will be like, we see the pictures and be like, oh, this body shape is very nice, and I want to get this body shape without having idea that the picture or the video is just an edited type for it's edited for. Thank you for the correction. So they tend to stand themselves. They tend to stand themselves so that they will get that body shape. So I would say social media is one of the factors that contributes to another. And also when it comes to our culture as is, When you go to some communities or societies, then they have that belief like, oh, if you are a lady and you are plus oversized or you are fat or chubby, then you are not you won't get a husband or you won't get someone to marry you, or you are not supposed to be at some of occasion that they are organizing and so on. So they try to, when they see you being fat or something like that, they try to uh, tease you or criticize you or something like that. So the individual will feel pressure and be like, oh, then why don't I just starve myself so that also I also get that 10 body so that I also fit in that society. So they tend to starve themselves or restrict themselves in some area easy. So that is what I can say about it.
Thank you very much. Please do not let social media influence you to this condition we are discussing this time around. Miss Anas, if anorexia nervosa isn't just about food, what is it about?
Okay, interesting. But before we go into what's really leads to anorexia nervosa, not necessarily food, I would like to say something about what my sister said about the factors you relate it to what I'm coming to talk about. She mentioned uh, genetics as a factor of anorexia nervosa. It's not like the anorexia nervosa is a gene the person is inheriting, but then the mental disorder is what the person can inherit from the mother, because we are saying it is a mental disorder. So if the person inherits the mental disorder gene, that's when the person also will have the perception or the idea the parents had. And sometimes too in the house, a household that growing up, I saw my mom starving so that I should be slave. I saw my senior siblings starving so that they will be slim. I grow up thinking that it's a normal something. It's something that when we do, it's normal. So those things will lead to some of the main cause of anorexia nervosa, which is control. Some people in real life lack control over some aspects of their life, such as their relationship with others, their academics, their emotions, and all that, controlling their temper. So they feel like food is what they can exercise their power on it. With food cannot fight with you that I will let you use me this. So they feel like if they starve themselves or if they don't give their body access to food, they are controlling food. So they tend to, the aspects of their lives that they lack power and control over, they tend to exert that power over food. So they think that's their means of having or showing their power. So that's one factor that leads to anorexia nervosa. And also we have what you call distorted self-worth. Some people have the perception that they see their self-esteem in their body size and body shape. Like if I am slim, if I have flat tummy, if I have this body shape, that means my self-esteem is high. Even in our normal community, you can see people refers to the fat people, obolotry, excuse me, chubby. And so that person feels like, the person feels that she's of no importance. She lacks the self-esteem of going into a public spaces. So the person restricting herself from food to become slimmer, the person feels like she's gaining some self-esteem. So that's it. When you don't really value yourself and all that, that's another cause of anorexia nervosa. And sometimes to identity. The person will be like, when I restrict myself from food, if I exert my power on food, one day I can be like, that's my identity. I'm the queen who can starve. Like, that's their power, that's their known tag. Like this person, she can go 15 days without eating. So if you're looking for someone who can starve, you go to that person. So she wants to get that identity over her, that's my identity. And sometimes to our environment, we are surrounded by a lot of people in our environment. So sometimes how we see people's action towards us, how we see how people relate with us life. Let me also be like, as my brother said, be like this person. That one, people will cherish me. So the people around us also contribute. They'll be like, you there, you eat a lot. You there, everything. So in this world, you don't eat anything. You like everything. So the person will be like, why don't I start starving? So that they'll know that me too, I don't like plenty food like the other people around me. So these are some of the factors that really leads to anorexia nervosa, not necessarily the food for the person. Rather, it's an incorporate factors that all comes together to play a role. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this insights. Now, Main Teresa, who can be affected by anorexia nervosa?
Okay, so anorexia nervosa can be diagnosed in people of all backgrounds, ages, or genders. It doesn't necessarily mean adolescent girls are the only ones that go through anorexia nervosa, although it is predominantly common in them, and then as well as younger women, young men, and sometimes older adults. But then if there is a notion that says anorexia nervosa only occurs in adolescent girls, that notion can be false or probably will be false because it cuts across all backgrounds. Yes.
Thank you very much. So, my guys out there watching us, anorexia nervosa can also affect you too. Now, Miss Agnes, how can anorexia nervosa be diagnosed?
Thank you once again. Okay, so doctors or health practitioners, they diagnose anorexia nervosa not just by looking at the person's weight, but also considering the fact that the person had this fear, or the person laid an information to them, or delivered an information to them about how he or she doesn't want to gain or lose weight, and then they can diagnose it from them. And then when you come to the dietitian, through your and dietary assessment, or what you tell them that you'll be eating, they can also diagnose it from there, that because you don't want to you don't want to eat because you don't want to gain a lot of weight. So it can be diagnosed in that.
Thank you very much. Now, back to you, Miss Aiko. What happens if anorexia nervosa is left untreated?
Okay. When anorexia nervosa is left untreated, it becomes very life-threatening. Anorexia nervosa is a mental disorder. So when it's left untreated, it can cause anxiety, depression, and even leads to death. Now, anorexia nervosa is one of the deadly mental health disorders which has a high suicide rate. Now, untreated anorexia nervosa can lead to bone loss. It can lead to depression. And then from the depression, one can have thoughts of committing suicide. And then anorexia nervosa can cause a lot of other distorted body images. It can cause a lot of issues, from severe malnutrition to hormonal imbalances and electrolyte imbalances as well. So from untreated anorexia nervosa, one can lose his life, one can lose even respect in the society, because if you started practicing this, or if you started having this fear when you were a child, as time goes on, you don't just lose weight, but you become very wasted. You lose a lot of weight to the extent that even your muscles start to break down. So you start looking much more thinner than you wanted to look. And then society also do not want people who look very thin, people who look very small. And then people start causing stigmatization from how others may. And others even say they are HIV patients whilst they are not. So all these things contribute, and then people start committing suicide as a result of that.
Thank you very much, our esteemed guest, for giving us this insight on anorexia nervosa. Now, please, my viewers also have some short questions for you. Someone is asking that what myth about anorexia need to be corrected?
Okay, so there are lots of myths about anorexia nervosa. Some include people have the perception that anorexia nervosa only affects ladies, which is not. It affects all genders. And also, people also have idea that anorexia nervosa, people who appear thin, they are people who suffering from anorexia nervosa. But people who lose chubby too can can also suffer from will be in the situation of anorexia nervosa, but just that theirs is in early stage, so they don't appear thinner. So that's more thing I can say.
Thank you very much. Also, one is asking what's happen if anorexia is left untreated?
Okay, so as Miss Ivy already stated, it can lead to suicide if measures are not put in place. So, as some of the myth even says, people think when you start eating, the issue of anorexia nervosa will be solved, and it's not so. The thing is a mental disorder. The person can start eating and even gain weight, but if the mental disorder is not corrected, the person will still be in that state, which you see the person healthy everything, but mentally the person might not be okay and end up with suicide. So.
Thank you very much. Please, last one. What message of hope will you give to my listeners?
Okay, so what I will assure our listeners this evening in that when you see someone or you know someone experiencing this condition, or you yourself you think there's a problem you are in this problem, you just have to walk to the hospital, come to the doctors. We can also come to the dietitians, go to the psychologists for them to they will help you to correct this condition.
Thank you very much, our guest, for this insight on anorexia nervosa. I really appreciate your time on my show today, and I'm much grateful for honoring our invitation. May the good Lord bless you. And our viewers out there, thank you for staying with us. And as time goes on, if you have any question about anorexia nervosa, please don't feel shy. Go move to any hospital that is closer to you to seek for help. See you next time.